Who else is excited about the new 3000 ampere graphics cards from NVIDIA? We've done a fantastic recap on everything that is new in comparison to the 2000 series RTX GPUs. But in today's video, let's go over all the custom board partners RTX 3000 cards that we know about so far, talk about their design and what to expect. For reference, here's the Founders Edition RTX 3090, 3080 and 3070 with their respective specifications for size. The Founders Edition will launch on September 14th, while the board partner cards will launch on September 17th. So good luck, have fun. There are no pre-orders planned, which means supply will be extremely limited, and any retailer who are selling the RTX 3000 series, good luck, your site will crash. From what we've seen so far, none of the board partners have the custom 12-pin power connector that is found on the Founders Edition. Instead, we have either dual 8-pin or triple 8 pins. Yeah, some are using custom PCBs that are longer than what NVIDIA showed off, so maybe NVIDIA is saving the slightly shorter PCB designs for themselves. That means that the power connectors are located somewhat in a general normal location instead of the smack down in the middle as we saw with the NVIDIA cards. Unfortunately, it seems like there's very little innovation when it comes to engineering new coolers for the RTX 3000 series. Most of them are triple fan slot, massive downdraft coolers, and that's it. Most of them are absolutely massive. Most of them are triple slot designs too, except for a few really unique compact editions and water-cooled models too. A lot of these have not been finalized and no clock speeds have been announced, but we'll publish what we can. Initially, none of the cards will have any additional memory capacity, but I wouldn't be surprised to see RTX 3080s down the line with 20 gigabytes of RAM or VRAM, or the RTX 3070s with 16 at some point. And the really interesting pattern across many brands is that their RTX 3070 designs haven't been announced yet. So a lot of them are 3080s and 3090s. Pricing is all still up in the air, but as we saw with the RTX 2000 cards, man, be prepared to pay a lot more for the RTX 3000 series because the demand will be insane, supply will be low. All right, so timestamps for each board partner can be found here and below. I'll try to keep this brief. Let's begin. I'll start with ASUS. Those seems to be the easiest ones, especially the ROG STRIX edition. Basically, the RTX 3090 STRIX and the 3080 STRIX have the exact same design. Actually, one of the more vertically compact cards that you'll see in this roundup. Triple fan design, 2.5 slot heatsink with a pretty tasteful implemented RGB strip on the side. Really cool industrial look, but not totally overdone like past ROG cards. This is one of the few brands to have the triple 8-pin connectors for power, and the backplate looks like it borrows a bit from the flow-through airflow design that NVIDIA showed off for their Founders Edition cards, and the PCB actually looks a bit longer than NVIDIA's too, and judging from where the I/O bracket is, these are really wide cards. Now, ASUS is actually one of the few board partners who are adding 2 HDMI 2.1 outputs, as most others have 3 DisplayPort 1.4a connectors and a single HDMI 2.1. The RTX 3070 STRIX uses the same design too, but with a few modifications like dual 8 pins instead of 3, and HDMI port mounted in the center of the I/O plate. The ASUS TUF series follows in the footsteps of the STRIX by using the same design for the 3090 and the 3080. It's a lot more industrial looking, but with a more basic heatsink design, still 2.5 slot card. Personally, I love the look, but in the past, the TUF series have received some negative feedback because of poor cooling, so hopefully ASUS is taking that into account with this new TUF series. Expect the TUF series to be the more affordable than the STRIX, but with less features. Here we have the dual 8-pin connectors instead of triple on the STRIX, and no RTX 3070 announced for the TUF series, but I'm sure that is coming later. Moving on to colorful, and I think these guys have one of the coolest designs. Let's start with the Neptune series, and this one is linked to a 240mm all-in-one cooler. It's a compact dual slot design with a glowing addressable RGB LED in the middle. Initially, I thought this was a fan, but it doesn't look like it is. Unfortunately, you probably never see this in most cases when it's facing down, but it would look absolutely amazing mounted vertically. Also, it's a lot slimmer than some of the other cards with dual slot height, and it also has a triple 8-pin connector. Moving on to the Vulcan series, and this one is a massive triple slot card card that has a really cool integrated high-resolution LED that can flip upwards when the card is mounted vertically, and it's a really cool concept that can display GIFs, system information, GPU temperature, and whatever. It's really all about the showcase, and I'm hoping that the LED is going to be of high quality. And as for the cooling solution, we have two 90mm fans and one 80mm. Moving on to the advanced series, and this one should be called Go Big or Go Home. We have a really cool centered mounted fan with RGB. It actually looks good without being too flashy. It is a very large card that looks to be bigger than the 3-slot width. And the interesting thing here is that Colorful is not using the flow-through backplate design like you'll see with majority of other board partners. The Ultra series, this one's massive at almost 13 inches, and this is one of the longest RTX 3000 cards that we've seen, and it's still a triple slot card. One thing I like here is that all Colorful cards will come with an anti-sag bracket, and this one is certainly colorful with that large RGB panel on the heatsink shroud, which will unfortunately go pretty much unnoticed in most situations. And finally, we have the NB series, which is meant to compete against other entry-level RTX 3000 cards. It's a pretty basic design that's also compact at 2.5 slots, and it should also be under 12 inches, despite what the perspective photos look like. Moving on to EVGA, and this one 100% will be polarizing. EVGA has made some changes on how blingy their cards look now, whereas before they were subdued, muted, kind of clean looking. Now it's exactly the opposite. And like a lot of other board partners, the design for the RTX 3090 and 3080 will be identical. Let's begin with the FTW3, and oh my god, did they go full RGB on here. We have this gigantic addressable transparent section at the top, and I think it might look pretty good provided it's a solid color and you can turn down the brightness a little bit. But one weird design decision is that we have this swooping shroud that ends in this lipstick red outline near the end. It kind of looks weird. And this red strip extends onto the backplate where there is an illuminated EVGA logo. I love that the backplate is fully perforated, that matches the design of the shroud. And it's one of the shorter cards in this video at 11.81 inches, but it's very tall and it's wider than triple slot. Moving on to the XC3 Ultra, luckily the RTX 3090 Ultra card will take a step back from all the RGB. It's a pretty basic heatsink design with 3 fans and 11.25-inch length and the standard width. Still an RGB EVGA logo on the side, along with 3 8-pin power connectors. The XC3 version of the RTX 3080 and the 3070 are identical, but use dual 8-pin power connectors instead of 3. They also have a water-cooled Kingpin edition of the RTX 3090, which is incredibly exciting, and a hybrid edition of both the 3090 and the RTX 3080. Moving on to Aorus, and this is by far the largest card in this roundup. It is a massive quad slot unit. It will probably look really odd inside the enclosure. I mean, that side profile looks pretty ridiculous, and for sure these cards will require some sort of anti-sag mechanism. We have Master and Extreme editions, both with an identical heatsink and a triple fan layout, with a flow-through style at the back of the card and some visible branding peeking through the backplate. The lighting accents look awesome that spill onto the fan blades, and we even have a GPU temperature reading all the way at the back that should be perfectly visible in horizontal and vertical orientations. The I/O here is quite different versus other cards with 3 HDMI 2.1 and 3 DisplayPort 1.4a, and it looks like both the Extreme and Master editions of the RTX 3090 and 3080 will have dual 8-pin for power. So I'm really curious to see what the advantages are for the triple 8-pin for power on some other cards on like the 3080 and the 3090. As for the Gigabyte branded cards, both the Eagle and Gaming editions are quite blocky with a really tall shroud and an almost triple slot design. More silver accents on the gaming card, but to be honest, both are kind of underwhelming. The rear portion of the backplate is open for airflow, and the dual 8-pin power connectors are all the way back here as well, with a standard I/O layout for both the RTX 3080 and 3090. Moving on to Zotac, it seems like they're continuing their domination in the compact space, as the RTX 3070 is super cute and is only 9.1 inches in length, making it the smallest 3000 series card as of yet. It's a dual slot design with 3 DisplayPort 1.4a and a single HDMI 2.1. The shroud shape and the backplate reminds me of the Combine train from Half-Life, just because it's so tall and thin, and it will require two 8-pin power connectors. Moving on to the RTX 3080 and 3090, they are triple slot in width, long at 12.5 inches, but are only slightly taller than the PCI slot because of the illuminated bits in the middle. There's only the color distinction between the shrouds, with the 3090 being slightly lighter, but with the same triple fan cooling solution. The dual 8 pins for power is in line with the RGB logo, and as you probably have noticed by now, only the RTX 3090 cards have the NVLink bridge, whereas both the 3080 and the 3070 do not. From everything we've seen so far, this is my favorite design as of yet. I think because I really like the gray instead of the traditional black, and it's not overly the top in terms of bling. The options from MSI include the Gaming X Trio, which is the flagship model for both the RTX 3090 and 3080, and I personally have been using the Gaming X Trio with the 2080 Ti model, which is awesome. And then there's the Ventus 3X SKUs that have similar triple fan shroud, but with less bling. And finally, let's finish off with Galax. They all look kind of generic with a triple fan illuminated cooler and the cringy question up top. I don't get it. Perhaps the most unique part of this card is the extra exhaust fan that you can mount at the back with this clip-in system, which is included on the 3080 and 3090, but not on the 3070 models. I'm all for extra cooling performance, but the card is already quite chunky with the triple slot design, so the fan will bulk it up even more. And as with many others, dual 8 pins is offset near the center of the card and overlap with the extra fan, so something to keep in mind. And design-wise, this is my least favorite card, but the extra cooling might be beneficial and give this card an advantage. So those are all the cards that we have found so far. To me personally, I still find the Founders Edition to be the most unique in terms of cooler design, giving us something different. But let us know which one was your favorite based on everything that we covered in this video. As always, I appreciate your subscription. Thanks so much for watching. Check out this other relevant content. Subscribe for more. I'll talk to you in the next video. Like, I can't wait to get myself an RTX 3080, and I was thinking of buying an iMac.